Imagine a world in which everyday existence is only the tip of the spear. This is how the lives of spiritually blessed people are. There are, however, many people who go their whole lives without understanding that they are spiritually talented. You have to stay away from this at all times. For that, you need to learn to read the signs so that you can see what you're really capable of. It turns out that 8 strange things happen to people who are spiritually talented. The first is having very clear dreams and images. Could you tell me about a time when you woke up from a dream that felt more real than the real world? A dream that was so clear and deep that it seemed to have a message from beyond? For spiritually aware people, dreams are more than just wild ideas that happen at night. They are powerful symbolic stories that are full of lessons, warnings, and sometimes predictions. Joseph, the son of Jacob in the Bible, was one of the most famous people in history who had very clear dreams and visions. Joseph's story starts with his amazing ability to understand dreams. I remember when he was young, he had 2 very important dreams that seemed to come from beyond. In his first dream, he saw himself and his brothers tying sheaves together in a field. All of a sudden, his sheaf stood straight up, while his brothers' sheaves bowed down to it. The sun, the moon, and 11 stars bowed down to him in the second dream. Joseph felt like these dreams gave him a sense of purpose and fate, but they also made his brothers angry and jealous. They didn't like the idea of Joseph being in charge, so they made a plan to get rid of him. They made him a slave, and from then on, Joseph's life went in a lot of different directions that no one could have seen coming. While Joseph was a slave in Egypt, his life took another turn he didn't expect. Even while he was in jail, he kept figuring out what his dreams meant. One of his skills caught the attention of Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, who had been having some strange dreams. Joseph said that Pharaoh's dreams about 7 fat cows and 7 lean cows meant that there would be plenty for 7 years, and then famine for 7 years. Pharaoh was impressed by Joseph's intelligence and knowledge, so he made him second in charge of all of Egypt and gave him the job of getting ready for the coming famine. Joseph's dreams not only changed his own life, but they also had a big impact on Egypt and the countries around it. His story shows us that dreams can give us deep insights and direction if we understand and pay attention to them. In the end, Joseph's brothers, who had sold him as a slave, came to Egypt during the famine to find food. The other people didn't recognize him, but Joseph did. He didn't want to get back at his brothers, so he forgave them and hugged them. But you don't have to be a famous person from history to have interesting dreams. Many people today say that their dreams feel like trips to other worlds. These aren't just random thoughts. They're the whispers of a higher awareness that help, guide, and sometimes warn. Everything in these dreams is important. A roaring ocean could mean mental turmoil, and an eagle flying high could mean freedom or a better view of things. It's like decoding an old holy script to learn this language, the language of symbols. It's a way to deeply understand not only the dream but also oneself. Think about going to a world where time bends and the past, present, and future all blend together when you close your eyes at night. This is what people who have vivid dreams and images feel like. They go on adventures while they sleep, discovering new worlds and learning things that affect their daily lives. These things that happen to you are not just chance. They are signs, lessons, or problems that you need to figure out. They serve as a warning to those who are spiritually talented that existence is so much more than what the eye can see. It's not always easy to figure out what these dreams mean. It takes time, reflection, and often help from people who have been through it before. It's like picking up a new language that uses symbols and meanings, but the benefits are huge for those who are willing to listen. For people who have this gift, it gets harder to tell the difference between dreams and real life. They use the knowledge they gain in their dreams to make choices, better understand their feelings, and connect with others on a deeper level during the day. They seem to have a secret guru who gives them advice that no one else can hear. Know that you are not the only one who has had these deep dreams and images. There are many stories from different countries and times in history about people who were given this gift. They are the prophets, visionaries, and thinkers who can see past the surface of everyday life. The second strange experience, a stronger sense of intuition, may be even more powerful than the dreams we've already talked about. Have you ever known something without being able to explain it? A gut feeling that tells you what to do or keeps you safe? This is the world of enhanced perception, a strange and strong skill that only a few spiritually gifted people have. It's like having an inner guide that always sends you in the right direction, without you having to use logic. People often say that intuition is like a word, a soft push that is easy to miss in the chaos of daily life. For spiritually aware people, though, this whisper can be as loud and clear as a shout. It can happen all of a sudden, as a feeling in the pit of your stomach, or as a thought that just won't go away. Think about the stories of great thinkers and creators who said that their breakthroughs came from having intuitive thoughts. They got answers to hard questions out of the blue, like a flash of lightning. These events are not just random. They are the result of a mind that is tuned in to a higher frequency. For people who are spiritually talented, intuition is more than just a feeling. It's a safe way to find your way. There are times when they make choices that are exactly what was needed, even though they couldn't explain why they made those choices at the time. It seems like they can reach a level of knowledge that is beyond what they can understand. People often think that having strong insight means they are in touch with the world on a deep level. It's like these people can connect to a global network of information and get help and advice from a source that is not limited by space or time. Immanuel Kant was a philosopher who thought a lot about intuition and what it means for how we understand the world. Kant was a German philosopher who lived in the 18th century and made important advances to ethics, philosophy, and how we know what we know. His work paved the way for modern philosophy, and his studies of intuition had a huge effect on how we think about what we know and how we see things. Kant was especially interested in telling the difference between intuitive knowing and intuitive knowing based on reason. When we use our senses, like sight, touch, and taste, to feel the real world, this is called sensible intuition. But Kant thought there was another kind of intuition, which he called intellectual intuition. He thought it was a higher and more deep ability. Kant said that intellectual intuition was the direct perception of abstract, non-sensory facts. His argument was that this kind of insight let us get to basic rules of morals and reason without using facts or sense experiences. Intellectual insight and Kant's idea of a priori knowledge were very important to him. A priori knowledge is knowledge that is not based on experience and can be known through pure reason alone. Learning to trust their gut is one of the hardest things for people who have it. In a world that values facts and reasoning, trusting something as vague as gut can be scary. But the benefits are huge for those who are brave enough to trust. Not only does it make your life more in tune with the world, but it also makes it more whole and real. Learning to accept and develop your instincts is a process of getting to know yourself. That means being able to calm your mind and pay attention to the tiny messages your body and spirit are sending you. Being more self-aware and knowing the world around you better are the goals of this road. The third feeling is more subtle, and most people don't even notice it: a strong sense of empathy. Unlike most ideas about empathy, this experience goes beyond just feeling what someone else feels. It's a deep link to other people's hearts and souls. Imagine going into a room and being able to sense the mood right away. You could feel the happiness and sadness of the people there as if they were your own. This is what people with a lot of empathy have to deal with every day. It's like having a sensor that can pick up on people's emotions even if they don't say them out loud. It can be both a blessing and a pain to carry the feelings of other people. On the one hand, It lets you make deep, important relationships with people and ease and understand them in a way that few other things can. But it can also be too much, like a rush of feelings that are hard to tell apart from one's own. It's important to learn how to deal with these feelings. It means setting limits, being aware of your own feelings, and finding ways to protect yourself from too much emotion. It's hard to find the right mix between emotionally healthy connections and staying emotionally healthy. One of the most famous stories that shows how strong empathy works is the story of the Good Samaritan. This old story from the New Testament of the Bible has been shared and understood in many different ways over the years. A lawyer asked Jesus, "Who is my neighbor?" This is the start of the story of the Good Samaritan. In answer, Jesus told the story of a man who was going from Jerusalem to Jericho and was robbed. They beat him, took his things, and then left him on the side of the road, half dead. Two religious leaders, a priest and a Levite, walked by while he was lying there but didn't do anything to help. It's likely that they were worried about keeping the right clean. However, a Samaritan, a member of a group that Jews looked down upon at the time, found the hurt man. The Samaritan felt deep empathy for the hurt visitor despite their political and cultural differences. He put bandages on the man's cuts and washed them with oil and wine. He then took the man to an inn and took care of him all night. The next day, the Good Samaritan even gave the host money to keep caring for the hurt man and said he would be back to pay for any other costs. In this story, the Samaritan did more than just feel sorry for the person who was hurt. They show how strong empathy can make you feel deeply connected to the pain of another person. Even though it was against social rules and stereotypes, the Good Samaritan not only saw that the hurt man was in pain, but also took quick, kind action to ease it. Deep empathy isn't just an emotional state. It's an important part of growing spiritually. It teaches kindness, improves comprehension, and creates a feeling of unity with other people. The spiritually gifted are able to see and understand the world in a more complete and linked way because of this ability. There are spiritually gifted people who see the world as more than just a place. It's a painting of colors that the normal eye can't see, a range of forces that show what everything is really made of. The fourth experience is being able to feel and understand the air that surrounds people or things. There is a cloud of colors around everyone, everything, and even things that people who can see auras can see. These colors are more than just effects on the eye. They show how we feel, what we think, and how much energy we have. Each color has its own story to tell about the person or thing it circles. Rudolf Steiner was a wise and spiritual Austrian who started the spiritual movement Anthroposophy. This movement tried to connect the spiritual and physical worlds. The fields of philosophy and spirituality have been forever changed by his contributions to our knowledge of auras and the spiritual side of existence. Steiner was born in 1861 in what is now Croatia. He was very interested in spiritual things from a very young age. Seeing auras was a gift he had from a very young age, and it became the basis of his deep spiritual and philosophy studies. Steiner thought that auras were more than just something you could see. He thought they showed how the soul and spirit worked on the inside. Along with the idea that the spiritual and the material world are deeply related, Steiner's thought stressed how everything is linked to everything else. The real world, he said, was a mirror of the spiritual world, and the two were linked. Steiner said that the colors and forces that make up auras were a way for people or things to show their spiritual character. Steiner wrote a very important book called Theosophy, in which he explained more about his ideas about auras and the spiritual nature of reality. He said that people's ideas, feelings, and spiritual growth affected their auras, which were not fixed, but always moving. Steiner thought that studying someone's aura could help you understand their inner state, their past, and even their possible future. Steiner taught about auras and the spiritual world but his lessons could also be used in real life. His work led to the creation of anthroposophical medicine, a way of diagnosing and treating illnesses that used spiritual knowledge and the study of auras. With this method to healing, the goal wasn't just to treat the physical signs of a sickness, but also to deal with its spiritual, mental, and moral reasons. Steiner's work also went beyond the study of auras. He started the Waldorf school system, which cared about the spiritual and social growth of children, as well as their intellectual growth. It stressed a whole-child approach to learning and development. Since then, this way of teaching has become famous all over the world and is now used in schools everywhere. Steiner's theory was based on the idea that people could improve their spiritual abilities, such as the ability to see auras, through spiritual routines and inner work. He thought that people could improve their ability to see and understand auras by becoming more self-aware, meditating, and working on their moral and ethical progress. Being able to do this always reminds me of how everything is linked. It breaks down the idea of separation and shows that everything in the world is linked on a deeper level by energy and light. Understanding this deeply and humbly changes how we see and engage with the world. For spiritually talented people, there comes a time when they feel like their lives have a bigger meaning. This time often comes out of the blue. Their hearts tell them to follow a road that's like a curtain being pulled back. A strong sense of calling or mission, a phenomenon that turns everyday existence into a search for greater meaning and service, is the fifth strange experience. Life takes on a new meaning for those who go through this awakening. Often they say it was like having a quick epiphany that their life was meant for something else. It's not just about desire or personal success. They know deep down that they are here to make a spiritual and important difference in the world. A lot of the time, this calling leads to a deep search for truth and meaning. Different spiritual beliefs, views, or social reasons may appeal to different people. Not only do they want to know things, but they also want to be wise and understand their place in the big picture of life. Passion and goal meet on this trip. Things that used to seem unimportant are now filled with meaning. The spiritually talented fill their daily actions with a sense of purpose, trying to have a positive effect on the world, whether it be through art, teaching, healing, organizing, or any other effort. Choosing to serve a bigger cause can be hard at times. It usually means getting out of your comfort zone, dealing with doubts and fears that come up when you choose a way less taken, and meeting skepticism or misunderstanding from other people. However, these problems can also be used to grow and strengthen one's spiritual journey. Living a life that is in line with a bigger purpose brings a lot of joy and satisfaction even when things go wrong. For spiritually talented people, helping others and doing their part for the greater good often brings them more happiness and joy than any amount of money could. It's important to remember that this feeling of meaning changes over time. As a person moves forward on their spiritual road, it changes and grows. It's possible for a hazy desire to help to grow into a clear goal or a life's job. The journey takes its own time and reveals its secrets one step at a time. Having a sense of a bigger mission helps us remember that we are all a part of something bigger than ourselves. It questions the idea of a purely selfish existence, providing a viewpoint that suggests we are not only here for our own journey, but also to help everyone evolve and get better. Now we come to the sixth experience, the never-ending desire to learn and the feeling of knowing things that you can't explain that often comes with being on a spiritual road. The start of this quest is often sudden, like a dam breaking inside the mind. A lot of questions start to come up about the world, the nature of existence, and the greater meanings of life. It's not like the world is easy or normal anymore. It's like a puzzle or a mystery that needs to be solved. People who are spiritually gifted are always wanting to learn new things. They are interested in everything from old beliefs to modern sciences, and they are also interested in learning useful life skills. They will stop at nothing to understand. It's a trip that's about learning new things as well as getting to know yourself better. On this trip, something very strange takes place. People in this group often have times of knowledge that they can't explain, sudden insights or understandings that come to them without any study or experience beforehand. So it's almost like the information is downloaded into their minds, giving them deep and life-changing views of knowledge. Immanuel Kant's knowledge, which we've already talked about, can also be used here. Kant was always wanting to learn more, so he looked into many things, such as philosophy, epistemology, ethics, and aesthetics. He worked very hard to figure out the mysteries of the world and the mind by thinking very carefully and analyzing things in a planned way. His most important work, The Critique of Pure Reason, which came out in 1781, shows how much he wanted to learn. But this never-ending search for information can be too much. It becomes very important to be able to balance the desire to learn with the needs of everyday life. Part of the trip is learning when to look for things and when to stop, when to take things in and when to think about them. As spiritually gifted people learn more, they start to see how things fit together in new and sometimes surprising ways. They find links between fields that don't seem to go together, building a web of knowledge that gives us new ways to look at life and existence. We are now going to talk about the seventh strange feeling, being out of place. This feeling is common among people with spiritual skills. It shows the inner struggle that comes from living in a world that doesn't always seem to connect with their greater selves. For many spiritually gifted people, they feel like they are different from the start of their lives. Sometimes they might not feel linked to their peers, be interested in normal things, or be overwhelmed by how shallow social rules are. This feeling of not belonging can be both lonely and informative, and it can be the start of a greater search for knowledge and connection. Because of this feeling of being alone, people often look for like-minded souls, or people who think and feel deeply like them. This search can become a trip in and of itself, leading people to look into different spiritual groups, beliefs, or forms of art in order to find common ground and a sense of belonging. When spiritually talented people feel cut off from the outside world, they often turn inward, making a safe place in their minds and hearts. They find comfort and a sense of connection in the realms of thinking, fantasy, and faith that the outside world might not offer. It can be both good and bad to feel like you don't belong. On the one hand, it creates a unique point of view and encourages deep reflection and artistic expression. On the other hand, it can make you feel alone and confused, making it hard to connect with other people in the world. However, this feeling of being cut off is often what drives spiritually talented people to build links between the everyday and the unknown. They help others see the world in a new way by connecting the seen and the unknown, the everyday and the extraordinary. They do this through their ideas, imagination, and empathy. In the end, feeling out of place gives you a special gift, a new point of view. It lets spiritually gifted people see the world from the edges, to question rules and beliefs that most people hold. This point of view is very important for making the world a better place to live and for understanding it better. The eighth strange feeling is one of the most important ones, not being able to tell time. A glimpse into an existence where the past, present, and future merge into a single endless moment is provided by this feeling, which goes beyond the normal idea of time. When someone is spiritually talented, they may feel like time stops during times of deep connection, meditation, or creative flow. The sound of the clock doesn't matter at these times. There's a sense of infinity in the present. They seem to cross the line between past, present, and future, going into a world where time doesn't run in a straight line. Sometimes clear memories from the past can come back to you, giving you insights and lessons that are just as useful now as they were back then. In the same way, images of the future may become clear, showing hints of chances and possibilities that have not yet come true. Timelessness isn't just a state of avoiding the limits of time, it's also a state of accepting the fullness of current existence. To tell us that life is more than just a string of moments, it's a patchwork of events that are sewn into the fabric of forever. Philosophers, mystics, and scientists have all thought about the idea of timelessness over the course of history. Albert Einstein's theory of relativity, which changed the way we think about time and space, is one of the best-known examples. Einstein said that time is not a set, exact number, but rather a relative one that changes depending on where the viewer is looking from. His idea showed that time can bend and stretch based on things like speed and gravity. Einstein's work also showed that space and time are closely connected, making a four-dimensional fabric called space-time. Einstein's theory of relativity changed the way we think about the world and our place in it in very important ways. It went against Newton's idea that time flows continuously and without stopping. It also gave us new ways to think about reality. For spiritually talented people, the feeling of not being in time goes beyond the theories of physics. It's a very personal and deep event that gets to the heart of who they are. It's a warning that there is a huge, endless area of awareness just below the top of regular life that is ready to be explored. Finally, people who are spiritually talented live in a world that is both strange and wonderful, where the everyday is mixed with the special. They find their way through a reality that goes beyond the limits of the physical world by having vivid dreams and visions, strong intuition, deep empathy, and auras. They feel called, thirsty for knowledge, and connect to the endless flow of existence through a sense of not being in time. People who are spiritually talented take their gifts seriously and with bravery, knowing that they are a part of something much bigger than themselves. They show others the way and help people understand the mysteries of life and existence better.